I just spent 5 days flogging the ever-loving crap out of a Honda CRF250F in the mountains of British Columbia, and I have to say, this may be the single most underrated motorcycle ever created. I am not a dirt bike guy, so if you're looking for like an in-depth specs and nitpicky kind of tearing the bike apart type review, not exactly what you're getting here. What you're getting here is the experience of a dual sport guy experiencing kind of dirt bikes for the first time in some of the craziest, most difficult terrain I've ever ridden a motorcycle on, and really putting this motorcycle to the test in a lot of ways that it wasn't really designed to be used, and just continually coming out super impressed with how the bike did. So if you're looking for a do-it-all bike that is incredibly capable, confidence-inspiring, and easy to ride, well, you do very well to check out the Honda CRF250F. I can honestly say I cannot believe where this thing can take you, what it can do, and what it can take. I just got back from Grisbait 2023 where I spent 5 days riding this thing through the toughest off-road conditions I've ever been in on a motorcycle. Water crossings, climbing up steep dry creek beds, and riding to the top of literal mountains, and this thing just kept begging for more. I'm honestly still in awe of everything this little bike got me through. First, some stats so that you know what we're talking about here. The Honda CRF 250F is their trail riding motorcycle. It's in the mid-range of their lineup. It's not a motocross racer. For that, they have the CRF 250 RX, which I was actually riding with and hanging with the entire time. They had a whole fleet of Fs and RXs, and we were all tackling the same terrain. The 250F has a 249cc fuel-injected 4-stroke engine with a 5-speed transmission. It's got 20 horsepower, 15.5 foot-pounds of torque. It has a Showa suspension, which is awesome, especially on a very value, budget-conscious motorcycle like this, with 8.5 inches of front travel and 9.1 inches of rear travel. It has spoked 18-inch rear wheel and 21-inch front wheel, so standard dirt bike sizes, lots of tire options available for those. It has 11.3 inches of ground clearance, a 34.7-inch seat height, a 1.6-gallon fuel tank. It weighs 264 pounds wet, and the MSRP on this little miracle is $48.99. That's brand new for 2023. So the good, what did I like about it? One, the first thing you notice, incredibly low seat height. 34.7 inches sounds high, but I was flat-footing both sides at the same time on this bike with a 30-inch inseam. Now, I weigh a lot, I've compressed the suspension a lot, that's obvious, but it is incredibly confidence-inspiring, particularly if you're a newish off-road rider who's worried about A, getting your feet down in uneven terrain, or B, just like waddling up difficult things, which I had to do more than once because we were riding in some really stupid places. I cannot overstate how easy it is to get on and off this bike and how easy it is to handle it, whether that's moving it around, repositioning it on the trail, loading it in and out of a trailer, turning it around on the trail. It's just a dream to use, handle. You don't have to think about any of that. And when I ride my 450L, which is much taller and a lot heavier, those are things I think about a lot. On this 250F, it was like throw your leg on and go. Oh, I'm in uneven terrain, I just step off, put the kickstand down, whatever. It didn't matter. I didn't have to think about that stuff. It's just easy to ride. I didn't install this bike once. It's very luggable. So you can get down into first gear, you can lug it in second, it's easy to control with the clutch. I was just taking off in second most of the time, trying to stay in second gear to keep speed up on the hill climbs, and if and when I ever ran out of oomph, which was mostly because I didn't have enough momentum on these longer climbs, I could easily click down into first and it would just drag me up literally anything. And again, I weigh at least twice what the average rider who buys one of these bikes weighs, and it was still just taking a licking and keeping on ticking the whole time, 5 straight days. It's air cooled, which means no radiator to crush when you drop it on the side of the trail. You can't overheat the damn thing. Very simple engine, easy to work on, easy to diagnose if you have things going on. It's deceptively powerful. I already mentioned this, but I weigh almost 300 pounds. And this thing was hauling me up ridiculous hill climbs, through creek beds, and just crazy, crazy stuff that I never thought I would even ride, and crazy technical steep stuff. And this thing did not miss a beat. The limitation on this ride was never the motorcycle. It was always the rider the entire time. I did not find the limits of this bike. It's light and easy to throw around and maneuver. It's incredibly tough. So I was at Grisbait, which is one of the events that the Traction E-Rag crew puts on yearly. They do multiple events a year. They run a fleet of these 250Fs, which means they have riders up there like me taking on very difficult stuff week in and week out for weeks at a time through the course of the year. And these things can just take a beating. I only dropped it a couple times, but people were dropping them left and right, and these things were just, you just pick them back up and go. They're very tough motorcycles, and there aren't many testing grounds where they get tested harder than at the events that these guys put on in this fleet. It's super easy to ride in a way that feels paradoxical to me. The throttle is forgiving yet responsive. It was a blast on everything from incredibly slow technical climbs to flying down the forest roads and trails at the end of the day, keeping up with the RXs, sliding it around corners, doing all of that stuff. I was shocked at how easy it was to ride and yet super fun for someone who has a little bit more experience to really twist the throttle and get into. Somehow it's the best of both worlds. It's beginner friendly yet fun and capable for a more experienced rider. Is it the absolute peak performance? No. But will it do 80% of what the absolute peak performance bike will do? Yes. Will it do everything that an average to intermediate to honestly advanced rider wants to do? Yep. Maybe not as fast as that advanced rider wants to go, but it'll take you anywhere. I was just blown away by this bike repeatedly. It would 100% be the first bike I would reach for and ask for if I was going to teach a brand new rider how to ride off-road. Or at all, honestly. It's that easy to ride, it's easy to get your feet down. You don't have to think about stuff like that. You can just think about learning the controls and maneuvering the bike and learning your techniques. And the other crazy thing that's in the pros column for this bike, it's cheap as hell. It's $4,900 brand new. That is very inexpensive for a motorcycle, for a dirt bike. And the used ones, depending on the market, which we'll get into, you can find even cheaper. So that's what I liked about it. What did I not like about it, right? No bike is perfect. It's true, this one has a few cons. One, the stock suspension left a little something to be desired. It's not set up for someone of my size, obviously, but I've read a bunch of reviews and they all talk about how progressive and how capable the Showa suspension is for a rider that is in the 150 pounds range, which is really what it's set up for. So if I was gonna buy one, I would have the suspension done. I would have to, but I'm not concerned about engine power or anything else. I just would be beating the hell out of that suspension at my weight repeatedly, but if you're anywhere in the 200 pounds range or less, you're gonna think it's probably a great suspension. It shouldn't be this good on a budget-friendly motorcycle, and it really is supposed to be good. It just didn't work great for me because that's not what it's designed for. It is not a cheap suspension. It's a Showa suspension. It's not some garbage Chinese components they threw in there. The suspension is not adjustable other than rear preload. That's another thing that you would get on a more expensive bike, but again, it's supposed to be pretty good, so I don't know. Your mileage may vary, but you get what you pay for. Well, it's not shocking that it's not adjustable at this price point. Ground clearance is an issue, and I think a lot of that, again, has to do with my weight because I'm compressing the suspension. It's sagging a lot more, but I was continually tagging the quote-unquote skid plate on rocks, the foot pegs on rocks, bottoming on jumps when I was landing from a jump, but the thing is, it will do all that. You can jump it. You can. We were riding up stream beds that had like, 8, 10, 12-inch rocks that were riding up, around, and through, and the thing could take it. It's just bottoming a lot because I'm a fat ass. It's a smaller feeling bike, so when I sat on it, the first thing I thought was this feels exactly like Little Dork's DRZ125, and admittedly it's a little bigger, but it does have kind of a small feel, small frame, low to the ground. Again, very confidence-inspiring for a new rider, but it does feel a little bit like a toy when you first sit on it, when you're kind of throwing it around. The other con that I found is I immediately started looking for used ones about the third day, because I really am considering getting one of these for myself. I had that much fun on it, and the used pricing is super weird. There's a bunch of people trying to sell them for $1,000 more than brand new retail, which makes no sense. But even the used ones, I'm not seeing any for less than $4,200 in general. Now, they've only been out. This 250F has only existed for a few years, so that's why there's not any really old ones. It was an upgrade from the 230. The used pricing is a little crazy, so much so that I would probably just try to buy a new one, see what kind of deal I could get on it. So they hold their value, but it may not be worth trying to get a used one depending on where you're at. You have to keep your eye on the market. What's my final conclusion on the 250F? Well, the proof is in the pudding. This thing has no business being able to haul my ass up, around, and through everything I did last week, and yet it did it with ease. It had plenty more to give, and a skilled rider would have had no problem with anything we did on this bike. I honestly can't believe this thing exists. $5,000 and capable as hell. Dallas, the editor-in-chief of the Traction E-Rag, and the guy that organizes all these events, the guy that runs the fleet, he said it's the most underrated dirt bike on the planet, and I completely agree with that sentiment. People dismiss it because it's a cheaper, beginner-friendly dirt bike, but I'm very much considering to buy one to use as my forever trail bike. I don't need to hit motocross jumps and tabletops. This thing has all I need and more to enjoy OHV trails and forest roads, exploring forever, although I would throw a suspension upgrade in it if I was going to get one for myself. I'd take this just about anywhere and feel confident doing so. In short, I was blown away by this bike. It feels like a toy, but continually astounded me with its capability, even with a rider 2 times the weight it's designed for on board. There's no thinking required with this bike. It can do just about anything with ease, but doesn't require you to tame a wild beast to do so. It's confidence-inspiring, easy to ride, cheap, and yet it can take you anywhere. I keep looking for the compromise or the catch with this bike, and I just can't find it. This thing is pure, cheap fun. It's an amazing machine. Well done, Honda. Well done. What are your thoughts? Have you ridden a 250F? Let me know how you feel about it in the comments. Have you ridden the 230? How do they compare? I didn't didn't expect it to be that good. I expected to be complaining and making compromises the whole time, and everything I asked this bike to do, it did it with ease. And I'm not what you would call the rider it's designed for. It is a hell of a machine, and I would urge you to strongly consider it if you're thinking about a non-street legal trail bike, or if you can street legal it where you live. We can't do that here, sadly. Anyway, I just want to say thanks to Dallas and the Traction E-Rag crew for having me up to Grisbait. It was an amazing time. Look out for those videos. They're coming very soon. Thanks to Honda for making an amazing machine, and thanks to all of you for watching. But for now and as always, I just want to say thank you for watching, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!